Hey there guys, my name is Tony from Method Outdoors. Thanks so much for your interest in our Method Outdoors hunting journal. I just wanted to take a moment here to go through a detailed page-by-page look at the hunting journal so that you know when you buy exactly what you're going to get. I have absolutely no doubt that when you purchase this hunting journal, you're going to become a better, smarter, more successful hunter. Keeping track of all the details and the data you find in the woods is going to make you a better hunter. There's absolutely no doubt. All right, so I'm going to change the camera angle and we'll get into the hunting journal page by page. All right, so let's walk through this hunting journal. First thing I want to point out is our hunting journal is printable. Now that means that you purchase it once and you have it forever. You can reprint it as many times as you like. Now you're only able to print it if you are printing it. Sending it to a buddy and printing it doesn't work because we kind of keep track of some of that stuff. But if you want to print it multiple times, you can. We also give you individual pages that you can reprint. So if you fill out all your journal pages, you can reprint another single journal page or multiple journal pages and put them into your journal. Now we have our journal in a 3-ring binder at this point, but you can also have it bound. It's just a dollar or two from the UPS store, wherever you have this printed, and you can have it actually have them put a plastic binding on it, which is super cool. And in that case, if you're maybe going to keep a journal for just 1 year, or you don't hunt all that much, and so you don't feel the need that you'll have the need to put in extra pages, you can have it bound, and it's just like a little book. You can also kind of have laminated covers. There's all sorts of cool stuff you can do. All right, so let's get into the journal. Here's our cover page. You can keep track of the month and year from when you start the journal to when you finish the journal. So in that way you can have several volumes year over year as you keep track of all your hunting information. First page here is just a little introduction page with some copy about how to kind of use your journal. The back side of that, we have our table of contents. So here we lay out all of the organizational sections: hunting contacts, properties and leases, food plots, tree stands, hit list, deer tracker, trail cam reports, our rut tracker, a catalog, wish list, memories to make, and then we get into our planning section and our journal section, and then we have kind of a conclusion section called the final word, where you can keep track of everything you harvested over the year, and then also kind of set some goals for the next hunting season. So our first page here is hunting contacts, and what you're going to see here is some pretty fine detail on every one of these pages. So we've tried to come up with everything you would need to keep track of for that particular section. So for a hunting contact, spot to put their name, their phone number, their email address, their location, do they own a property or lease, and why do you need to know them? Is that a hunting buddy? Is this a landowner you reached out to about a lease that maybe said call me later, something like that. Our next section is our hunting properties and leases. So we have who owns the property, give that property a nickname, the location of that property, ideal hunting conditions. That's a really cool thing to keep track of, and then just a brief description of the property. You know, is it 60-acre woodlot, 40-acre ag field, stuff like that. Next section is our food plot records. So if you do food plots, keeping track of this detail is super important, and it's nice to have it with your hunting stuff as opposed to in a separate notebook. So we've got a spot here where you can put in location that may tie into your hunting property and leases section. Soil test results. What did you add to the soil? So a soil amendment section. What have you planted this year? And then any notes on that particular food plot. Our next section is tree stand blinds, tree stands or blinds. So a nickname for that stand. When did you set it? Location. Is it on one of your leases or sitting on one of your food plots? You can put some of those nicknames you've been using in there. And then the details are ideal hunting. What type of winds are good for that stand? What type of weather conditions? Time of day? So all the details when you're setting up a tree stand. So if you got 10 to 15 stands out in the woods, it's easy to keep track of what stands you have where. So a nice detail to have there. Hit list bucks. Bucks that are either on your hit list or not. You want to keep track of everything you're seeing. So here's a little spot where you can detail if that's a shooter, yes or no. How many points or what details do you have on the buck? Where have you seen the buck? And then any notes about that deer. And then you take that hit list buck and use his buck nickname, and you bring that over to your deer tracker, and you could keep track of all the times you see that deer, whether you're out scouting on foot, or in the car, or you see him on a trail camera. You can keep track of all the times you see that buck or particular deer when you're scouting or on trail camera reports. Keeping track of rut sign, I think, is really interesting. And if you've followed up on any of the studies they're doing now on hunting, you'll know that they're finding that in one particular area, the rut happens at almost the same time every year. And so if you can figure out when you're seeing rut sign this year, think of how important or helpful that's going to be in years down the road as you're hunting in the next year. So keeping track of all the rut signs you see. Are you seeing bucks chasing? Are you seeing them start to make scrapes or rubs? Items like that. An equipment list. I love keeping track of it. My equipment. Did you buy a new bow this year? What are the details, the specs on that bow, brand and model? What year did you buy it? And then a little review. Are you trying out some new arrows this year or broadheads? Keeping track of all those details is nice in the equipment list section. Our wish list. Do you have some stuff that you maybe want to buy? And then on this other page, we've got our memories to make or goals. So writing down what memories you want to make for the coming season or what goals you want to succeed on. That's important. We got a little spot there where you can check mark it when you complete that goal. And then we have a couple pages here where you can just some blank line pages for scouting notes. And then we get into kind of the here. Now this is an innovative section. You're not going to find any other hunting journals with this section. This is something that we've come up with at Method Outdoors. This is the planning section. And so in this section, you're able to actually plan out your hunts. So you start with a plan. What's your target deer? Or are you targeting a doe? Are you going on a doe hunt? And then let's say you want it, let's say it's July. You're looking forward to the season. You looked at some past journals. You saw the rut gets going maybe November 10th. Let's use an example. And you had great luck last year, November 10th. So let's say we want to plan November 10th in our plan section. We're going to put that date up here in the corner. See if I can get that on camera. And then what deer do you want to target on that day? Nice to put in the sunrise and sunset for that particular day. Then when you actually get to the day, you have the information recorded. And then pick 3 or 4 stands here that you may want to hunt on that day, and then the ideal wind conditions for that stand. So then as you get closer to the day, you can keep track of what the winds are looking like. So we're going to have a northwest wind. Then you can keep track of that northwest wind and say, okay, northwest wind, I'm going to sit in the apple orchard stand, because that's the wind that is conducive for that stand. What's your goal for the hunt? What special equipment do you need? If this is a rut hunt, do you want to remember to not forget your rattling antlers or something like that? And then any notes. So that's the plan section. We've got 3 or 4 pages for you to plan some hunts out. And then we get into the journal, which we've thought a lot about too. And so we've got some pretty cool details in the journal. You get about 25 to 30 journal pages with the intro, but again, you can print as many journal pages as you want and just shove them into the 3-ring binder. Okay, so let's look at the details here of your journal page. Start with the date. You're out hunting. What date are you hunting? I want to start with the weather conditions, because weather is so hugely important to hunting. So we've made this plug and play. You just circle the weather conditions. Real easy to keep track of all this stuff. What was the wind direction? Was it out of the east? Circle east. What was the wind speed? Was it super light? Was it real windy? Do you know the direction? 10 to 15 miles per hour. Was the pressure falling, rising, or steady? And then a little spot here where you can actually record the barometric pressure. Temperature. Now this is an interesting thing. My background is actually in meteorology, so looking at weather and how it affects our hunting is pretty important to me. One of the things that's more important versus the actual number, let's say it's 64 degrees, what means more is it warm or cold for that time of year? So you're in the woods, is it abnormally cold or is it abnormally warm? Is it December and you're hunting in shirt sleeves? Or does the temperature feel pretty normal? So you can just circle that there, and then a spot here where you can put in the actual temperature as well. Circle the moon phase, and then a quick spot where you can write any notes about the weather. Is it snowing? Is it raining? Was it super blustery? Was it cloudy? Was it sunny? So just get in those weather conditions in the notes section. A real quick spot here where you can write an outcome, so you can really quickly page through your journal and find, you know, did you see 0 deer? Did you see 5 deer? Did a shooter come within 50 yards of you? Just a quick outcome section, like basically just like a little review of the hunt. What stand and location did you hunt? Were you out there with your bow or your gun? What time of day were you out? So you can put the actual day here, circle AM or PM. and then this big section here to keep track of all of your hunting notes. And we really want to encourage you, when you start keeping your journal, take the time to write down the details. And even if you spend time in the woods and you don't see a deer, those are some of the most important times to get in your journal and write down those details, because if you have those details, you'll be able to rule out that stand in those weather conditions. If you don't write down the days you don't see deer, you have a hard time ruling those out, and that's how you end up sitting in unsuccessful stands year over year. And so really keeping track of all the details and really getting your notes, because what you want to do is think about yourself 5 years from now, and you want to look back in this journal. You don't want just a few little scribbles and not the detail. You want to see the detail, because that's what's really going to help you long term. Another way I think of my journal is, I've got 2 young boys and a daughter. They are going to absolutely love looking at my hunting journals over the years, right? So keep track of that detail so you can share those cool hunting stories with your kids and help your kids get off on the right foot when they start hunting as well. Okay, so that's our journal section. I'm just going to skip to the back here where we've got kind of a wrap it up section. This is where you can keep track, you can write down your harvest records. So what did you shoot? In this area, you could keep track of turkeys. If you wanted to keep track of pheasants and ducks as well, you certainly could. We've geared this more towards the whitetail hunter, but there's absolutely no reason you couldn't use it for that purpose as well. On the next page, we've got end of season thoughts and reflections. I think this is cool, right? You finished the season, you've got some thoughts on how things went. Write those down. Those are going to be hugely important to you as you get a few years down the road. What are your goals for next season? If you're like me, you end the season, you've got a bunch of goals for the next season, and by the time the next year rolls around, you've completely forgotten. What do you want to change next season? And any gear that you want to buy for the next season? It's just a few notes. All right, so there's our page-by-page look. I hope you found that helpful. Now, if you want to purchase the journal, just head to our Buy Now page, and you can do that there. Again, remember, you purchase it once, you get it forever. It's really a pretty good deal. If you have any questions, you can find me at methodoutdoors@gmail.com or via the contact information on our webpage here. Otherwise, just search Method Outdoors on Facebook, and you can message me there. Thanks so much for watching and for your interest in our Method Outdoors Hunting Journal. Looking forward to talking to you soon.